The confrontation between Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, and Emperor Palpatine was not only the climax of the original Star Wars trilogy, but in universe, it was one of the most important events in galactic history. It led to the redemption of Anakin Skywalker, the collapse of most of the Galactic Empire, and Luke Skywalker finally becoming a Jedi Knight. One of the most interesting moments in the clash of the three figures came when, out of desperation, Luke actually gave into the dark side and attempted to kill the Emperor, but Vader blocked the blow. I honestly didn't realize that Luke did try to kill Palpatine until I was an adult and I had seen the movie 1,000 times. I always just thought that he started dueling Vader. I've seen discussions about why Vader blocked Luke's blow. Some people say he was protecting Luke from making the same mistakes he did in the past. Others say he was simply protecting the Emperor because he was still a slave to the dark side at that time. The novelization of Return of the Jedi actually explains the very specific reasoning that Vader had for blocking that blow and stopping Luke from killing Palpatine in that moment, and it's probably not what you would expect. The book fleshes out Vader's plan to turn Luke to the dark side so they can overthrow Palpatine and rule the galaxy together, and that's something that Vader thinks about over the course of the entire book. When the Emperor arrived on the Death Star, Vader pondered the feeling of power that his master gave him, and how soon that power would be passed to him and Luke. Vader felt complete at Palpatine's side. Though the emptiness at his core never left him, it became a glorious emptiness in the glare of the Emperor's power, an exalted void that could encompass the universe. Vader knew it someday would encompass the universe when Palpatine was dead, for that was his final dream. When he'd learned all he could of the dark side, he would take that power from his master and kill him, keeping that darkness at his own core. He would then rule the universe with his son at his side. His other dream was to reclaim his son and show Luke the majesty of the dark side. He knew that Luke would come with him. He could sense in the Force that the completion of his dream was near. Much later, as Vader waited for Luke to surrender on Endor as the Emperor had predicted, he again sensed the future through the Force, yet it was clouded and he could not feel the specifics. He could feel that his destiny would be fulfilled soon, but he couldn't fully comprehend what that meant. That sense through the Force felt like a drum getting louder inside his mind. He could feel dread all around, and fear that excited him. He knew that those negative emotions would heighten his senses and hone his passion within the dark side. He also sensed victory and mastery, but they were laced with something else that he could not discern. The future was still in motion even as he sensed it, and it was difficult for him to see. Its apparitions tantalized him. His future was clouded, thunderous with conquest and destruction, but still he could feel that his destiny was so near. Afterwards, as the Emperor forced Luke to watch the battle outside the Death Star, Vader sensed his son's power, and again thought of how soon they would destroy Palpatine and rule the galaxy. Luke was stronger than he had ever imagined, and Vader perceived that he was not yet lost to either side of the Force or the Emperor's will. There was still time for him to take Luke for his own, to join with him in the dark side and rule together. It would only take patience and power to show Luke the satisfactions of the darkness. The book describes how, as Luke watched the rebel fleet being massacred, the dark side was with him, and Vader sensed it. Finally, Luke could no longer resist his anger, and he ignited his lightsaber, swinging it with his full weight down at the Emperor's skull. In the same instant, Vader's blade ignited as well, blocking Luke's attack a mere inch away from Palpatine's head. Vader and Luke then engaged in battle as the Emperor watched with pleasure. In the moment that their duel began, Vader contemplated the exact reason why he couldn't let Luke kill the Emperor. He was impressed with his son's speed, and he regretted that he had needed to stop his strike. He knew that Luke was not emotionally ready to kill the Emperor yet. Vader thought that there was still a chance that Luke might return to his friends if he killed the Emperor in that moment, and decided that his son still needed more training before he would be ready to assume his place as Vader's right hand. So Vader decided that he needed to guide Luke further, to stop him from doing damage in the wrong places or in the right places prematurely. So, the confirmed reason that Vader stopped Luke from killing the Emperor wasn't necessarily to protect him from falling to the dark side. It was simply because Vader wanted to guide his fall into darkness and make sure that he was trained and ready. So, is this the positive explanation that everyone probably expects when they look at a lore video about Vader stopping Luke? Probably not. But that's just how the story is. And honestly, I think that that's more interesting than just having them go the easy and quick route of saying, yeah, he was protecting Luke because he didn't want Luke to go down the same path that he did. During that moment, Vader did still want Luke to go to the dark side. Right up until Luke was electrocuted by Palpatine, Vader was still evil, he was still on the dark side, he was still a Sith Lord, and he was still adamant about converting Luke, training him up, and then eventually killing Palpatine. Yes, he was conflicted. He was thinking about joining Luke, wishing that he could, but he was still evil. He was still under the spell of the dark side, if you will. Just because he was conflicted doesn't mean that he was completely good or necessarily completely bad, but he was still a Sith Lord on the dark side. He still wanted Luke to be on the dark side. He was just kind of considering things and he was conflicted about his feelings for Luke and Luke's compassion. But he wasn't just trying to protect Luke. He was genuinely protecting Palpatine when he blocked Luke's blow. But not because he cared about Palpatine like that. His plan was to kill Palpatine just at the right time. So it's one of those things where basically he was protecting his plan for Luke, but his plan for Luke was still to turn to the dark side. And I just think that that's fascinating. I think that this is one of those moments that people theorize about a lot and ask, like, why did Vader stop Luke from killing Palpatine? Like, that seems like it would have solved all of their problems. But this information that's presented in the novelization really explains it well. And it's kind of crazy that it's from the original novelization from 83. This sounds like lore that would be released in a new canon book like today, explaining stuff. You know how they always retroactively go back, use different books to explain characters' thoughts and motivations and stuff, like the book Skywalker, A Family at War that I use for my videos a lot. But the fact that this is from the original novelization from 1983 is awesome. I really enjoy this lore and this story. I think it definitely adds some great context and emotional weight, and it just makes Vader's eventual turn, a few minutes after this, that much more complex. Obviously, Anakin and Vader's mental state is probably like one of the most interesting parts of Star Wars lore, in my opinion. From the prequels to the OT up until the time of his death, everything that Anakin and Vader is thinking is super interesting. That's why, I make so many lore videos about Vader's thoughts during this, Vader's thoughts during that. So this just falls into that category of amazing lore, fleshing out the characters, and I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.